वृषभानुप्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे. Okay. Prabhujis and Matajis, again a disclaimer. So if I am able to deliver at least 1% of what I've absorbed, or something that resonates well with you, then all the credit goes to the Vaishnava Gurus and all the study material that I've gone through. And I'm bound to make a lot of mistakes, which I'm sure about. So please excuse me with a Saragrahi Bhavam as your any family member. So with that note, I would like to make a start. Thank you. So I would like to share the small presentation that I have made as part of this. Prabhuji, I think you will have to give me presenter rights, or I already have, I don't know.
Are you not able to share, Mataji? Share
yeah, I think I can share, no problem.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prasad Prabhu.
Okay, so here I start. So as part of the 12 Mahajans, the one of the Mahajans that is being aligned to me for today's session is Bhishma Dev. Well, when I say the name itself, Bhishma Dev, I have goosebumps because he's such an exalted personality. What can I talk about him? As a child, I would always see or look up to him as the epitome of selfless service and dharma. When it came to selfless service, there are two historical characters I really look up to, which is Hanuman and Bhishma Dev. Hanuman for his Swami Bhakti for Sri Ram, and Bhishma Dev for his selfless service or love towards his family and progeny. So both in their own areas have exhibited this nature, and I think I thought it's worth a mention. So yeah, so this is about Bhishma Dev. The slight, USP I would say about Bhishma Dev. So I will quickly run through the various aspects of the Bhishma Dev's life. So firstly, we will talk about birth of Bhishma Dev, or rather, let's confine ourselves to Devavrat because that was his initial name, the name given by his parents. So Devavrat or Bhishma Dev's story starts this way. So it starts with the great Maharaj with the name Shantanu Maharaj. Well, Shantanu Maharaj is a great personality who was effulgent, he was magnanimous, he was humble, charismatic. Basically, he was considered as powerful as Indra, and he was considered as learned as Brihaspati. And it is also said that he possessed all the material opulences that are listed in our scriptures. So he was that exalted soul. And then Shantanu Maharaj on his way, one day he's on his way to an expedition to a forest, and that is when he meets this beautiful lady. And that beautiful lady is none other than the personification of Mother Ganga. So the moment Shantanu Maharaj looks at her, he's attracted towards her, and with all humility, he goes to her and makes a proposal for the marriage. So Ganga Devi, she does not accept it right away. Basically, she lays a condition to him. She says that if you accept my condition, then I will, take the step of getting married to you. So Shantanu Maharaj says, okay, fair enough. Could you please let me know what is this condition all about? So Ganga Devi says, no matter what, And no matter what I do things in a certain way, you can never question me. So if you happen to question me anytime, any of my actions, then that is the day I'm going to leave you or abandon you. So at that point of time, Shantanu Maharaj did not realize what vow he is taking, and what implication and repercussions it would have in the due course. For him, all that mattered is he wanted to marry Ganga Devi for the divinity he saw in her. So he readily accepts it without any second thought. So now what happens is they get married, they get into a nuptial knot, and as the days passed, in the due course, Mother Ganga, she delivers her first child. And now Shantanu Maharaj, I mean, he is the most happiest father on this earth. He was holding the future king of his kingdom. He was actually dreaming about all that he could, to realize his dreams. And he was thinking that, how his king would rule. I mean, basically any father in his ecstasy would think about looking at his child, the feeling, the ecstasy that one would go through, the emotions that one would go through. Shantanu Maharaj was going through the same thing. So, but what happened is Ganga Devi requests Shantanu Maharaj to hand over the baby to her. So he thinks, okay, fine, it's mother who is asking for it. So he just hands over the baby to Ganga Devi. Now, what Ganga Devi does is she takes the baby, she carries the baby to the banks of the river Ganga, and she drowns the baby. Yes, you heard it right. She drowns the baby. Now, this was something Shantanu Maharaj was, in a state of shock, surprise. He was like, he didn't know. It was fright of his life to be looking at his future king to be getting drowned this way. But it is like he just keeps quiet just because of his condition that he had put forward to Ganga Devi, owing to their marriage. I mean, that resulted in their marriage, basically. So that was the only reason that was holding him back to just keep quiet. But yeah, and then over the time again, Ganga Devi delivers her second child, and this repeats over, where she takes the baby, brings to the banks of Ganga, and drowns the baby. And now Shantanu Maharaj, though he was going through an emotional turmoil, though he was just holding it back, he was just gulping all this sorrow within himself. And it so happens that it's a vicious circle now. It's like a series of action that goes on forever until their eighth child. So Ganga Devi was actually drowning each and every child this way. So now Shantanu Maharaj loses it at the end. I mean, when it was a time when it's the eighth child, Shantanu Maharaj loses his composure. He now tells Ganga Devi, he reprimands rather Ganga Devi, saying that, I need a justification now. I cannot see my, children being drowned this way. I think I had enough. I really fail to understand how could a mother be so cruel, so insensitive about her own children. Immediately after their birth, how could she think of even drowning them? So I think I need a justification today. And he is totally emotional now. So Ganga Devi reminds him that, hope you remember your condition. I mean, I hope you remember your vow to my condition. So he says, I'm sorry, to hell with your condition. I don't think I have the courage to, hold this anymore. I'm done with it. As a mother, you may not feel the pain, looks like, but I am at least not in a position to take this anymore. So she says, fair enough. I will tell you the story. I'll tell you a story that will let you know what I have been doing, why I have been doing this things in a certain way. But warn you that post this, I will be leaving you. So he said, fine, I'm okay with it. So now Ganga Devi starts narrating a story. So in this story, she tells, in the previous Kalpa, there were Ashtavasus. So Ashtavasus happened to visit Vashishta Mahamuni's ashram. So Vashishta Mahamuni is yet again a very exalted Muni, and he had one of the wish fulfilling cows called Kamadhenu. So its name was Nandini, and it was daughter of Mother Surabhi. So it is said that whoever consumed the nectarian ambrosial milk of this sacred cow would have, would be ever young, would never turn old. So that was the, greatness about this cow. And it seems even Indra tried to steal it from Vashishta Mahamuni once. So now that this Vasus were here, one of the Vasus named Prabhas, his wife instigates him to, steal the cow. I'm sorry, behind every successful man, there is a woman. But I think the contrary is also true. But you would understand this point. I think it's more than a woman instigating; it is a divine plan. So let's not talk about that. I just thought, this very thought spurred into my mind, like, how could women lead to anybody's success or a failure? So yeah, having said that, this is not something to do with the women, it was something to do with the divine plan. So yes, this Vasu gets instigated now, and then eventually he plans to steal the cow. So with the help of his rest of the 7 Vasus, this Prabhas, what he does is he steals the cow. Now, Vashishta Mahamuni is not able to find the cow in his premises of the ashram. So he is completely in a fury, like, what happened to my cow? Who has taken this? So what happens is he gets into meditation, and through his meditative potency, he finds that it was stolen by this Ashtavasus. And now, after all the honor he had given them by allowing them to be visiting his ashram, this is what they're repaying him for. So he is in a fit of rage, and with all his anger, he takes Ganga Devi in his, Ganga water in his hand, and he started cursing them. You, you Ashtavasus, you think you are the demigods of celestial world. I curse you all. I curse you all today that you will be born in the material world. You will be material world, which is earth, and this is what you are destined for, and this cannot be taken back. So for the Vasus, this was the this came as a big blow, and they immediately fall on the feet of Vashishta Mahamuni, and they start repenting for their actions, and they are extremely apologetic for what they have done to him. And but Vashishta Mahamuni, he softens, but as they say, that the utterances of great sages cannot be taken back. But what we can do is, it can be, the effect can be minimized. So Vashishta Mahamuni says the same thing, that I'm absolutely not I cannot take back whatever I've told you. You still have to take the birth on the earth. But I also give you a boon in parallel, that you can decide how quickly you can come back. So, but he adds that, fine, this is only for the 7 Vasus. The 8th Vasu, who is the prime culprit, he is not going to get this extra privilege or, the wild card. It is only for the 7 Vasus who have just assisted in the accomplice. There's who have just assisted in the whole crime. But one actual person who is responsible for this thing, he will not go. He will not be spared. He has to be born on the earth, and he will have a long life to go. So Mother Ganga now tells Shantanu Maharaj. The 7 Vasus that have been, even before we come that, what happens is now 7 Vasus approach Mother Ganga and tell her that, the next incarnation, they will be born to her as her children. So they request her that the moment we are born, please drown us so that we can come back to our home, and we do not have to struggle on the material world and the earth. So Mother Ganga then accepts their accepts their proposal, and then that is the reason now Mother Ganga tells Shantanu Maharaj that was the only reason I was just trying to drown these babies so that they can go back to their home or abode, holy abode. So now, it's quite common that we generally judge the people based on their actions without knowing the reasons behind it. So at least after reading this, I got a sense that I at least learned that we should not judge the people immediately after we see something. I think we should have the patience to wait and watch before we conclude anything about anyone. So, but the damage was already done. Shantanu Maharaj had already broken his vow. So, anyways, so having said that, she gave him the reason. Like this was the reason for all the 7 children getting drowned in the banks of the river. And then she adds that, but this 8th Vasu, whom you stopped me from drowning, is none other than that Prabhas, who was the prime prime culprit of this whole episode of stealing of the cow. So he's the one who is destined to live long on this earth. So now, having said that, he also happens to be our hero for today. So having said that, Mother Ganga, what she does is she takes the baby along with him, and in the process she trains him in all the respects of knowledge, in all, including archery, political science, in basically all the fields, Veda, Vedangas. For Veda Vedanga, it's Vashishta Mahan Muni who is his teacher, and within archery and warfare, it is Parshurama who teaches him all these things, and Brihaspati teaches him political science, and so on and so forth. Basically, he gets a profound knowledge. And today's in IT world, as they say, that one has to be multifaceted, multi-talented, to be in a position to handle anything technically as well as functionally, as well as in all respects. So Bhishma Dev was a complete package in those days. He was articulate. He had all the skills that are required to be leading a life of a kshatriya, or human, to lead the mankind, in other words. So so she was getting him trained in these things, basically. So what happens is, over the time, Shantanu Maharaj is again left alone. He goes to forest. As a king, they generally go to forest, and he happens to go to the same forest, and he sees this young boy. This young boy he had a great effulgence, and he was actually trying to stop the flow of Ganga. So he gets extremely impressed with this boy, and he tries to, and when he tries to find that, and Ganga Devi appears, and she tells him that he's none other than your son, and she hands over Devavrat. His name is Devavrat, and she eventually hands over Devavrat to Shantanu Maharaj, and she returns to her abode. So now Shantanu Maharaj was so happy, so proud to take back his son. And so that is the story behind the Devavrat. So hope you understood. Please let me know if you have any questions on this particular story. If not, I'll just move forward with the next things.
At least I don't have any doubts, Mataji. You articulated really well. So yeah. Rajesh,
thank you,
Vinay Prabhu or Prasad Prabhu, if any questions, you can.
No, madam, no.
No, Lakshmi Mataji, I don't have any doubts. It's clear, very clear.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Okay, so I will now move on to the next next element, wherein the hero of our whole episode, which is Devavrat, how is he named Bhishma? So Devavrat now is staying with his father in the kingdom. He's the crown prince, and he's having a wonderful life with his father. So again, Shantanu Maharaj happens to visit one of the forests, and he meets this beautiful lady who looked very divine to him. Her name is Satyavati. She was a daughter of a fisherman. And he has this desire to get married to her, now that he was all single, and he had this desire to get married to her. So he proposes, he put forwards his proposal to Satyavati Devi, and Satyavati Devi says that, as like a typical Indian girl, she says that I can, it will only if my father permits, I can get married to you. So you have to seek his approval. So Shantanu Maharaj goes to her father and reveals his interest and affinity towards her. So Satyavati Devi's father, instead of immediately handing over them, in today's world, if somebody is of a stature of a king comes, I don't think any other father would just step back from giving his daughter to him. But fisherman, Satyavati Devi's father, he actually is not comfortable. He says that though I understand you are a very magnanimous king, you are very, very wealthy, you have all the opulences, but I don't think I can give my daughter in marriage to you, given the reason that you already have a son. And tomorrow, what is the guarantee that my daughter's children will ever get the royal throne? They will, I don't think they will be ever getting that, and they'll all their life they'll be deprived of that privilege. So I don't think I will be able to approve your marriage. So now our Shantanu Maharaj is extremely saddened by this news, and he goes back to his kingdom. Now he starts, he's quite depressed, and he starts living in isolation. He's not talking to anyone. So having observed that, Devavrata is extremely alarmed. He sees his father in such a pain, he actually inquires like what had happened and what went wrong. So Shantanu Maharaj, and through the ministers, he gets to know about the whole story, what had happened. So Devavrata says, that's it. That's the only concern. Let me go to that fisherman. So he immediately goes, he takes his chariot, he goes to that fisherman, and he again starts a discussion like, what is the concern you have? You can please tell me so that I can help you here. So fisherman tells the same thing, like, I do understand that your father is a king, but since you will be the future king of the kingdom, my daughter's children will be deprived of the royal throne. So that is the prime reason I have decided not to give my daughter in marriage to your father. So Bhishma Dev says, see, don't worry. I promise you that I will definitely not I'll ensure that I'm not crowned the prince or king of the kingdom. It's going to be your daughter's children who will be ruling the kingdom. So you take my word. So, but fisherman is still not convinced. He's a very intelligent man. He says that, okay, I agree. But what if tomorrow your progeny, your children, they claim the higher? If they say that, if they come for a battle and say that it is our right and all that, then who is going to answer? So now Devavrata broods. He thinks that this fisherman has a very valid point, and that is when the Devavrata, he holds on for a moment and he encompasses all his energy, all his might, and with great intensity. He says that I Devavrata on this day, touching the holy water of Ganga, who is my mother, I take this oath in front of you all that I am a Kshatriya, son of a great king, Shantanu Maharaj. I promise to follow lifetime celibacy. So when he was telling this, there was so much of the environment turned extremely terrible. It was lightning, it was thundering, and the demigod started pouring flowers from celestial worlds, and it was so intense, so terrible, so something inconceivable for a Kshatriya who is allowed